Okay, so in this first actual lesson, we're going to be talking about just a few fluency tips. Remember, fluency, the topic of this course, is how to speak naturally and clearly in English. Tips means something that you should do which can help you to do something better. If someone gives you a tip, it could be similar to a suggestion, or it could be similar to a good idea which can help that person, which can help you in this situation. So fluency tips, I'm going to just tell you a few things to keep in mind. A few things to keep in mind for this course. Okay, now the first and perhaps most important thing to remember about speaking fluently is that sentences, and when we are speaking naturally, words are blended. So it's important to know the correct pronunciation of each word. It really is. And actually, I have another course about basic pronunciation in which I talk about how to say different sounds correctly. For example, vowel sounds and consonant sounds. But that doesn't mean that you should say, when you're speaking a whole sentence, each word separately without connecting those words together. So, let me give you an example. Let me give you an example. Does that sound good? Should I say, let me give you an example? Or let me give you an example? Or let me give you an example? Okay, which one sounds better to you? I think you can probably guess, and you probably feel, that the one which sounds more natural is the one where I don't say each word one by one by one. If I do that, it doesn't sound fluent. So you need to know the right pronunciation of words, but when you're actually speaking sentences, you will sound strange if you speak one word by one word. You will sound like a robot. So that's very important. We are going to learn how to mix and blend. Blend means to sort of mix two things together or make this one go into this one a little bit. We're going to talk about how to do this, and it's something I just want you to keep in your mind during this course. Very important. Okay, now the next tip I think is obvious. Obvious means it's very easy to guess that. It's obvious. Obvious means everybody probably knows, it's easy to see, but I should still mention it. I should still say this. Don't be flat. What does that mean? Well, you've been listening to me speaking so far in this course. And I don't talk like this. I don't say, you've been listening to me speaking so far in this course. Da 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 da. That is flat. Notice that when I speak, my voice rises and falls differently, and I do it for different reasons and to some degree, to some extent. It is my choice which words I want to focus on, which words should be up, which words should be down. To some extent, it is my choice. It is my type of expression. And there are some which are common or normal, and we'll again talk about that a little bit later in the course. So I just want you to keep in mind that you do not want to be flat. If you speak flatly, you can't express emotion very clearly, and other people will feel very bored about what you are saying. People can't listen to that, okay? So just remember, it's better that you use some fluctuation. Fluctuation means your voice rises and falls. Fluctuation means up and down and up and down. It's better that you have that and it sounds weird than it's totally flat. So if you don't know how to make your voice go up and down for English, at least try. And we're going to learn about how to do it later. But at least try. It's better than if you speak like this, flat. Okay, so don't be flat. when you're speaking. Now, this is a huge one, and this is true for every part of English pronunciation, and indeed, pronunciation for pretty much any language, unless it's only a written language, like Latin. Listening is very, very important. If you want to get the feeling for how a language sounds, you've got to be able to hear and listen and notice the things about that language, right? I speak the way I speak, not because I learned some rules about how to say things this way, how to say things this way. Actually, no, I never learned any rules. And in this course, we will be talking about some rules to help you to learn a little bit more quickly, right? But most native speakers of English didn't learn rules. They learned how to speak fluently by listening. So you need to be very good at listening if you want to speak naturally. So if you say to yourself, I want to be a great speaker, but I don't want to work on my listening. I only want to focus on speaking naturally. That is a very, very bad idea. And in fact, it's not possible. Because you can't know if you sound natural, if you sound fluent, unless you're able to listen to how other people sound, to what fluent is, to a standard of fluency. And I'm not saying that I am the standard of fluency. There is no standard English, right? There are many different forms of English, but you need to be able to figure out which kind of English fluency you want to have. Okay, and so listening is really important. Now, the next one is really tough. Self-awareness means being able to pay attention to yourself, what you are doing. Awareness means the attention that you pay to something and your ability to notice that thing or get something from it. So self-awareness just means focusing on yourself and being able to notice what you are doing. Very simple. Now, you think, well, I know what I'm doing. You would be surprised. You may think you know what you're doing. Most people think they know what they are doing. But there are many things, especially when it comes to speaking, habits that we have that keep us from becoming fluent. And in English, this is also true. And it's actually not only true for people learning English. A lot of Americans recently, in the last 5 or 10 years, use the word like in sentences. But the word has no real meaning. They just use it as a sort of thinking word. And we'll actually talk about thinking words later in the course. A thinking word is something that you say when you're thinking about what to say. And many Americans will say, well, I think like, and it's very common. And I mentioned this to my brother one time. You say like a lot when you speak. He said, really? Okay, I'm going to stop. I will stop saying like. I think it doesn't make me sound smart. And that's true. I think if someone says like too much in a sentence, they don't sound very smart. My opinion, just my opinion. He said, okay, I'm not going to do it anymore. But it's really hard for me. And he said like 2 times. So it's difficult to change your habits and notice what you're doing. I just want to tell you this because I want you to start trying to focus on what you are doing. Okay, you need to have keen awareness, self-awareness, very important. All right, now the next one is a tip that I think is incredibly useful, particularly for fluency, and that is to record yourself. To record yourself means to capture or catch or keep your voice. Okay, we'll be doing some exercises that can be used when you are recording yourself later in the course, but generally it's a great practice. And actually, this can really help with the last tip, awareness. So if you say something and you record yourself, maybe on your phone or whatever, there are many different ways to do it, you will find that you're able to notice things that you didn't notice when you were speaking. And that's really important. You'll be able to catch your bad habits. You'll be able to catch and find the things that you're not doing that are keeping you from becoming fluent. And so this is a very powerful tool for you. So I hope that you will start doing it. Now, some people say, I hate the way I sound when I record myself. Okay. You're the only one listening to it, so it's okay. Okay? You hate it, okay, you hate it. But you can get used to it if you do it enough. Okay? I used to hate my voice when I heard myself or a recording of myself. Now I'm totally used to it because I always record myself. This lesson, this video, is a recording of myself, and I will listen to it and edit it probably for many hours. So you'll get used to it. Get past that. Recording yourself is a powerful tool. Okay, now another tip which is really useful, which a lot of people don't really think about, is the ability to hear in your head. Let's just do this. All right. I want you to imagine a word. Let's say the word banana. Okay? Banana. 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 Say banana. Say banana. Okay. We all know this word. Now I want you to say the same word 2 times in your head without speaking. The first time you say it, I want you to say it like this. Banana. Banana. Okay? The second time, I want you to say it like this. Banana. Banana. It's not correct, but just do it. Okay? Let's try. Can you hear the difference between the 2 words? In your own voice, I can. And I think you can too. And if you can't, you can work on this. The ability to hear sounds in your head without actually speaking can help you a lot. Because during the day, you will be able to think about some of the things that we learn in class, maybe something that you heard in a movie, and you will start to think in your mind in English sound. Not only when you're watching movies, not only when you're listening to me, not only when you are speaking, not only when you are listening to your recordings. You will be able to hear sounds in a kind of way in your own mind. And being able to think in this way, we can call this audible thinking. Can really help you in your progress to become more fluent. When you start thinking in sounds, you can begin to work on things almost unconsciously without focusing on that, without doing an exercise. So this is something that I really hope you can develop and try to start doing on a regular basis. A regular basis. That means usually. And if you start doing it, you will find that you progress more quickly. Now, something which is true in pretty much every aspect of every language is that not all rules work. We may have some rules, we may have some ideas about how to do this, but it's very likely that there's an example that doesn't fit that rule, an example that doesn't work. This is called an exception. An exception to the rule. That's an E, by the way. That's an E, and that's an E. Okay, my handwriting is a little bit messy. An exception to the rule. Okay, so if we learn something later in the course, or if you hear something generally, we can say that usually works, but maybe it doesn't sometimes. And you just have to sort of accept it. Say, okay, I see. It's a language. Okay, it's not mathematics. It's not science. These things, mathematics and science, have very clear rules, and the rules must always work. 2 plus 2 always equals 4. Always. But this rule about this thing in pronunciation, in fluency, in grammar, doesn't always work. It's a kind of usually rule, we could say, or a general rule, we could say. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Finally, let's talk about something which if you are this kind of person, you really need to remember when you want to work on fluency. If you're the kind of person, the kind of student, and there are students like this, and that's great, right? If you're the kind of student who thinks, I must follow this rule, and do this, and this, and this, and then I will be fluent. I must do all these things, and then I will be fluent. It's going to be more difficult for you, because there's an aspect or a part of language, particularly language fluency, that is not about doing a certain thing, but is instead about getting a certain feeling about it. And that's something that's very difficult to put into words, right? The best way for me to say it is get the feeling of that. Let's take an example, okay? Here's a piece of music that you play on the piano. And one person learns it, plays the keys all correctly. People say, okay, that's correct. And then a person who's really, really good at the piano takes that same piece of music and adds something to it, even though the notes are all the same. They add some passion to it. They add some emotion to it somehow. It's very difficult to put into words what that is. Well, it's the same in some way for fluency. The feeling of a language, the way that it sounds as spoken by the native speakers of that language, is not always easy or even possible to put into this rule and this rule. And in fact, the people who, as I mentioned before, the people who do speak it in this way, they don't know any rules. They don't know why they're speaking it in this way. They just do. And so to some degree, you need to just sort of relax and be open to the way that it actually sounds. Don't say, oh, it should be this way, right? It should be this way, right? Well, I learned this, it should be this way, right? If you always are doing this, if you're always saying should be, you will miss the point. You will be very mechanical in the way that you speak. And so I hope you can relax your mind, relax your mouth. English is a very loose language, and if you do that, I think that you will find, if you're open to it, you will find that you improve very quickly, and you're able to get that feeling of English, spoken English, that's hard to put into words. That's hard to say, it is da-da-da. It is this. It's very difficult to say what it is. There's an aspect of it that is sort of intrinsic, an aspect of it that you can't really separate and describe. Okay, so in the next lesson, we're going to be talking about blending words. That means how to put words together so that sentences flow like water. Water flows. Flow more naturally in a sentence particularly. Okay? So, I will see you in the next lesson.